So now it's a single family, or where's it now?
Yeah. It's like one of those classic Halifax homes where it's like an over under flat, and then at the time it is like a single family house, and it like had that second kitchen upstairs, but it looks like at some point in time it was like renovated and taken away. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast. My name is Janelle Pouchet, and I'm with my co-host Ian Armour. Our other co-host Manny isn't here today. He is luckily in Mexico or on his way to Mexico, so that must be nice. But we are real estate investors in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Combined between the three of us, we've done or bought over 40 units. We've flipped houses, we've wholesaled, and a bunch more. Ian and I are mortgage brokers with the Blake Wilson Group as well. But in today's episode, we are going to talk about the many times that we were told no in real estate. So a little bit of a motivation-based podcast for everybody. I think if you're in real estate, either you're getting to this point or you have gotten to this point where you're being told, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. So we're here to talk about some of the myths that are out there and ways that we have persevered through being told no. But before we get into it, just want to remind everybody who's listening that if you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please be kind, give us a 5-star rating, all that good stuff. And if you do want to get in touch with us, we are active on Instagram. You can find us at Refined Real Estate NS or our personal Instagrams. We would love to hear from you. Any feedback you have, any questions that you have, we're more than happy to answer them. But before we get into the episode, first of all, what is going on? I don't think we have had sort of like a little bit of an update from Ian. It's like, what's going on? What's going on with your rentals? Where are you living these days?
Yeah. So what's going on? Closing in on the busy time of year for Airbnb. So that's some cool stuff. So starting to see a good chunk of bookings there. Long-term stuff, we are finishing the last unit on our building on Herring Cove there. So we'll have 8 units completely flipped over, renovated, all that good stuff. And we're gearing up to move forward with our other 8 unit over in Dartmouth. So looking forward to all that stuff. Also have a new purchase. I think we've hinted at it in the last number of episodes, but we're nearing the finish line in that. So hopefully by the next podcast, we'll be able to share many more details on that. So that's a deal down in Cleveland that Manny, myself, and another partner are looking to purchase. So we're nearing the finish line. We're not there yet, but feeling pretty good about that. What about yourself?
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited to hear about the deep dive on the deal in Ohio. I'm actually not involved in that one, but I've been kind of looking at it from afar, looked at some of the numbers for you guys. But yeah, I'm super excited to see how that pans out. No, it sounds awesome. And as for the Airbnb, what are you expecting for the summer in terms of like how many units are you operating, and what's your sort of projected occupancy for the summer?
Yeah, so currently have 3 that I'm running right now. Winter's been pretty great in terms of not having any occupancy. So did a lot of the midterm rentals, and that worked out super well. Again, we're getting like furnished rentals anywhere between $3-4 per month. So that's quite lovely.
Awesome.
Now, the prices are raising as it's more summer. So it's like you can make that in almost half the time, but you have a lot more open days on that.
Sweet.
So then,
are you managing that yourself,
yeah,
or you've a property management company in there?
No, have buddies of mine. So they actually live in the upstairs unit of one of my duplexes, and then they manage some of the other ones. So that's good there. But yeah, I thinking it's going to be a pretty busy summer. Yeah, but like I know with mine, a lot of them I don't book out like months and months in advance. A lot of times it's more like a month in advance. But having said that, like I already have a lot of nice summer bookings. So that's definitely great. Yeah, what about yourself? What's going on with your units?
Yeah, a couple of different things. The springtime is busy. A couple of different changes for me this year, similar to last year. So last year I converted one of my traditional long-term units over to furnished. I did some renovations, kind of doing the same thing to the other unit. This is the property that I have in Antigonish. So I have a duplex there. And a long time ago, I split it up into, or actually I took away a bedroom. That's when I was living there. So I'm actually going to go back at the end of this month and I'm going to have someone do a bit of work and put that third bedroom back in it. And then I'm actually planning on furnishing that one and doing Airbnb since it's outside Halifax. There's no Airbnb restrictions there, which is great. And so I'm going to do some work there. And then I have my long-term tenant moving out of one of my condos in Halifax. And that one is also going to be converted over to Airbnb for the summer. So on that one, just switching over from the long-term tenant, there'll be a little bit of maintenance things that I need to do there. Nothing crazy or anything like that. But yeah, that's what's going on with my units. And then as far as my new project, I think I might have mentioned it before, but I closed on another house. This one is in Halifax. It's in the south end. So it was a duplex and I'm going to be turning it back into a duplex. So I have that one in construction.
So now it's a single family, or where is it now?
Yeah. It's like one of those classic Halifax homes where it's like an over-under flat. And then at the time it is like a single family house and it like had that second kitchen upstairs, but it looks like at some point in time it was like renovated and taken away. It's not in any like crazy state of repairs, but it definitely needs some work. It's pretty dated. It's not too bad. Definitely not the worst that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But I should have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was one house that I sent you, and this is like back when I don't know, just was still learning everything. I remember it was like a Kijiji ad for a house in Kentville, I think it was. And it was basically like falling down. And I was like, Ian, like, look at this one. It's like they were trying to sell it for like $15,000 or $40,000, something like that, and they were gonna do like a vendor take back at like 75%. And at the time, like we were just like gaming for like anything. But I remember sending it to you. I was like, "This is a great deal."
Yeah.
It only needs like 4 walls and roof.
Yeah. Yep. I actually remember that one right on Main Street. I think it was. Yeah.
But no, this one is in a much better state of repairs. But yeah, I'm excited to get that one going. Yeah, it'll be
And the
busy
plan
summer.
with that one? What's the plan with that one?
Yeah, gonna fix it up. And I have a mortgage plus improvements on that one, so I'll get some money back right off the hop. And then I do plan on refinancing it at some point. But I'm planning on furnishing it and doing like student rentals during the school year. And we'll see how the Airbnb situation goes and hopefully do some short-term rentals. But
yeah, no, perfect. So we look very much so forward to seeing how that progresses.
But and then it's the summertime, so just if anyone hasn't gone out to our meetups, we are continuing our monthly meetups, and we've been hosting them at the garden. It's going to be exciting with nice weather coming around because we'll be able to use the patio there, get some outdoor space. But if you haven't, definitely come check them out. I try to meet monthly around like the mid to like end part of the month. And then the other thing I think that maybe if you want to touch on, that we do our Tuesday like kind of real estate podcast meetup as well.
Yeah, so with that, it's something we've been doing for about 2 years. I definitely love them. They're a good piece to keep you dialed in on the real estate investing side of things. So we listen to a number of different podcasts, whether it be Bigger Pockets, Andrew Hines, Rise, or a host of other ones. But basically what we're doing there is hearing just week after week after week success story of how people have built up either large portfolios or really efficient cash flowing portfolios or whatever it might be. And you just hear all the different tips and strategies that they're using. And it's stuff that, you might listen to 10 podcasts. You might take even 2 or 3 things just from those, and they're going to make a massive difference in your overall investing trajectory. So we've been doing it for a while. I like to think we've come a long way, and a lot of it's trial and error, but a lot of it's leaning on and getting inspiration and getting ideas and all sorts of things from these podcasts. So I would say that yeah, they've really been instrumental in taking us from where we were starting off to where we are now, and going to continue to lean on them moving forward. So so with that, we're actually opening that up. We've got a handful of people that come listen and contribute every week. And anyone else listening to this, please get in touch with us. We'd love to bring in some new people into that. And yeah, it's basically half hour, 45 minutes every Tuesday at 5:15. And yeah, we'd love to have some more people out with that.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, we pick a podcast to listen to during the week, and then it's pretty much like a book club, but like podcast based, and then we meet up and have a little community of people that we meet on a Google Meet with, and just discuss the podcast and ask questions and maybe like clarify some points. I think like one of the big things for me is that sense of community, especially if you're starting out in real estate, it can feel extremely lonely. And I know having that sort of like community group and motivation of like, oh, okay, like I need to continue listening, or like if you haven't listened, but just like getting together with other like-minded individuals and investors, and just kind of, we like to bring up points at the end and maybe just like similar to this, just chat about like what's going on. And if we're dealing with a certain situation, it's just a really nice platform to throw it out there and say like, hey guys, like I'm dealing with like this with a tenant, like what should I do? Have you guys dealt with it before? Yeah, so it's just a really fantastic way to get together and have that sense of real estate community.
Absolutely. And no experience needed. We've seen people in that group go from no homes or no properties to a few properties to some multifamily to all over the map. So you really have a wide array of experiences in that group. So again, please reach out. We'd be happy to chat with you.
Perfect. Alrighty, so jumping into it. So today we wanted to talk about times that we were told no in real estate. As we know, it happens more often than not, I think. So I think, Ian, you had a couple really, really good ones. Is there any particular one that you wanted to start off with?
Yeah. So again, this is, something we could talk for hours and hours on end. So we're just going to condense it into a handful of ones that I feel maybe some other people might be hearing, or if you are new trying to go down the road of real estate investing, some things that you might encounter. So that we'll just kind of just go on a few of them for now. But yeah, first one that jumps out to me was when I was trying to buy my very first house, I was essentially told by, people around me that I would not be able to get financing for it because I was self-employed, and it wasn't necessarily claiming a lot of money, just to try and keep my taxes down. So fast forward a little while, just continued to network, found some of the right people, and, yeah, that's a place where mortgage brokers can certainly help you out. So Janelle and I can certainly help you guys out with something like this. But it's basically, if you're self-employed, there are other ways than like going to your whatever bank you're with and saying, hey, can I get a mortgage? There are so many other lenders out there that can actually provide financing of different types. And again, we would love to chat with you guys about that. So that was about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. Had I just assumed that was a no, I wouldn't have bought my first house, and I would not have, got myself on the journey. So with that, a few years later, was able to refi, pull out a good chunk of money, go reinvest that into another property, and just continue to scale up from that. So if you were just to let the first bank tell you no, then then you're not going to get very far with this thing. So having a number of different lending options, again, shameless plug, Janelle and I certainly can help you out with that, but it's something that you can certainly get around. So
Yeah, 100%. And I think this topic is pretty like near and dear to my heart, I suppose. But yeah, like speaking about getting denied or just like told no at your first go at it, we deal with so many clients. I think the majority of our clients are like self-employed here at the Blake Wilson group, or I wouldn't say the majority, but a really like a unusually large percentage because it is tricky to get financing. But if you're working with the right team, the right broker, the right lender, then should be pretty smooth. And then on top of that, to continue with that, I know I was then, after I bought, I think it was my third rental, like I was just at the bank doing some other work and speaking with the like representative there, and mentioned like, yeah, I'm looking for another property. And then of course they like, okay, yeah, like let's do some quick calculations here. Went on the computer, put some numbers in. I told them the rough numbers for like my mortgage payments, rental income, et cetera, et cetera. I think at the time, like I was still employed, I was making pretty good salary. And then after they put the numbers in, they basically got like an error from the bank saying like, actually, no, like this doesn't work at all. You're pretty much like, you're not bankable. I guess kind of like one term that you could call it. And they were just like, yeah, I think you have to go into like a branch or like basically go see like a special mortgage representative for this. I think it was kind of funny because I think I actually did go and buy my next rental property like a month later, and I actually worked with a broker on it, and it was just like smooth sailing, like no problem. So had I took, what that rep at the bank was saying seriously, I probably would have been like, oh my God, like I can't buy another property, like the numbers don't work anymore. But yeah, and then I just kind of was like, well, I'll try this option, I'll try this lender, try this mortgage broker, and there you go.
beautiful.
Alrighty.
So next up on my list was, and this one wasn't necessarily a no, but I was told that it was nearly impossible to find off-market properties. And I know Janelle and I know we've had a podcast specifically on this, but that's been our bread and butter since we started working together. And for me, even a little bit before that. But that's, you can go back, listen to our last podcast on how we find off-market properties. But it was, that's been game changing for us because, that's where we get these massive upswings in equity and value and all these major components for investing in real estate. And it's because we went out, we built a system, and we found a number of them. So I don't know how much we've thrown out numbers, but I know like what was about 2 years ago, we bought a house in Fairview. And for those of you not from or familiar with Halifax, that's like a really big up and coming neighborhood. You're 10 minutes or so from downtown. You're seeing a lot of development go on there. But we, with I think the average sale price in and around 300,000 at the time, we bought a house for, I think it was 90 grand, something around there.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't
so,
really wasn't too bad. Like obviously needed renovations. But it's not like the roof was falling off, or like I think like the windows were fine, like the bones are good.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, for us to just sort of take, say, someone at face value saying, you're not going to find off market values. Well, here we are, we have, and they've made all the difference for us. So yeah, that was definitely another big one for me.
I think a lot of these points too is like coming from almost like blind ignorance or like maybe even like naivety like on these points. Like I know there's a lot of things I just like went out and tried, which is like, I don't know, like I'll like try this or suggest this, and it ended up working. Whereas, had I went out and told someone that, they'd be like, no, like you can't do that, like it's not possible. So I know when you suggested the off-market stuff, I had no idea about it, and I was just like, sounds good, like let's do it.
Yep. And it again made all the difference. And it was like,
yeah,
we took a lot of swings at bat, didn't give up, and persevered and eventually found some, and then graduated that onto some of the multifamily buildings that we've bought. So 2 of our 8
Yeah.
units there, they were off market deals as well.
And then to continue off that point, I was told no, absolutely not. When I was saying that we were planning on taking our 8 unit in Spryfield and turning the tenants over and doing the renovations in around like a year and a half, 2 years. I was very clearly told absolutely not. It's not possible. That will take you at least 5 years. We are like year 1.5 year, I guess. Tenants have all been worked with. Building has been completely renovated, which is really nice to say. So yeah, so that's a I don't know, hey, we did it kind of moment there.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And again, right ways and wrong ways to do that. And that one we just Janelle went to work on that one, chatted with each tenant individually, came up to an agreement, and we were able to move forward from there. So that again was huge.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And I guess for 2 points on that when you're being told no, it's hard work. Like, it's not just like you kind of, sometimes like you do turn around, it's like, oh, it actually was just that easy. But oftentimes, like when we were being told no, like the off-market deals, like that was hard work, and turning the building over, like this is hard work. Like this is definitely not passive investing at all. And then the other thing is like you have those self-doubts that like creep into your mind. Like, of course, I remember specifically, like I can remember the moment, like being on the phone in my condo at the time and just like looking at the spreadsheet and just like looking at the timeline, and like in my mind it's like 1 year, and I remember the person being like, it's gonna be 5, and I was just like, is it? No, like no way, like that doesn't sound right. So that self-doubt will creep in, even if it's like outlandish. You just like let that thought into your mind, and you're just like, oh my god, yeah, like it is not possible, or it's gonna take this long, or I'll never be able to figure it out. Like that happens to the best of us. Like I can assure you it happens to me all the time. So yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So next one up on mine is that you cannot wholesale in Nova Scotia, and some of that's kind of true, but like we know with all of this, there's certainly ways around it, and there's definitely some certain rules that you have to follow when doing it. But there is ways to make money selling real estate without being a realtor or without owning the property. So that one is definitely you definitely have to do it properly, because if you don't, you're certainly subject, or you're opening yourself up to being subject to some fines, to just some litigation, all that good stuff. So definitely
make sure
ways
you want
to
do it
do
like
it.
on the up and up, or make sure everything's kosher.
Yeah. So basically, like the quick thing that we learned through trial and error is, yes, you can't wholesale in the traditional sense. So you see a lot of it in the States. You see a lot of it out in Ontario and out west and all that good stuff, even as close as New Brunswick. But our rules here are quite strict. But what you are allowed to do is you're allowed to assign deals here. Meaning you get it under contract and you assign that contract to whoever is going to be the end buyer. So we've actually successfully done that. We've done that on some single family homes. We've done that on some larger multifamily buildings. Yeah. And it definitely was a cool experience. Now we're trying to keep all those multifamily buildings, but in the case of, either you're getting started or you want to go through the motions of doing anything, it's definitely a cool way to do that.
100%.
Yep.
And if you do get good at it, then there's a huge opportunity here in Nova Scotia. I know Martin and Lynn, Mealy, I think is like their last name or their company name. I think they were actually on the Master Keys podcast just the other week. They pretty much started the main wholesaling business in New Brunswick. So I haven't really gotten through that full podcast, but I did start it, and I think that would be a good one to listen to anyone who is trying to get into wholesaling in Nova Scotia. Yeah, definitely check them out. I'm sure they have a ton more like great tips and tricks on that.
No, absolutely. Then I'll go on my last point that I've got here, and this is one that is very fresh, very new, and I'm not going to go too deep into it. But when we close on that building in Cleveland, we're going to do a very like a thorough deep dive in the opportunity we saw and all that stuff. But the main point was that no, it's going to be almost impossible to buy something in the States. So we're in that trying to prove people that it can be done stage. So we still have a ton of work to do to realize any gains from that and proof of concept, all that good stuff. But we decided this is something that we wanted to do, and we're going after it. So yeah, it's certainly come, like everything that we've already talked about, its own unique challenges and hard work, but pushing through this barrier is something that we've had our mind set on, and something that we're looking forward to share with you guys on how that goes. So you'll be able to follow along that journey from early on to hopefully something that we get to build up and be quite proud of. So
No, that's fantastic. And just thinking on, like you're speaking about, like pushing through those barriers, it's definitely those times that you were told no. It's the times that you're faced with like that obstacle, and like once you work through it, and of course like at the time, again, it sucks. It's like, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to figure it out? But those are the times that you learn so much. And it truly makes you so much stronger for the next time it comes around. Yeah, like your problems will get bigger and they will get more difficult in real estate. But as long as you can just continue to push yourself and continue to, tackle that problem like one little step at a time, I'm sure like we both look back, like you had a good point. I think it was from another podcast, but it's like your problems from last year should be totally different than your problems today. And if I think about my problems last year, I'm like, oh my God, like that's totally like dealable. Like that's no problem. I would love those problems back.
yep.
So now they do get bigger, but it's just like, hey, like I got through the last ones, like I'll get through these ones. Yeah, I'll figure it out. You just get stronger along the way.
Absolutely. And that's it. It's like you grow thicker skin, you grow,
Yep.
Better ways to deal with the problems, whether it's through systems or through people or bits of advice. It's literally like, as you grow, the problem, you should have a new set of problems every year. If you're just solving the same problems year after year after year, you're not really growing. You're kind of in the same space. So it's like, as you take that step to scaling up, you should be met with new problems. So
Yeah. It's just I was kind of laughing because I was thinking about one of our problems used to be trees and Antigonish. I still have PTSD. Anyone talks about any trees along their properties, I'm like, cut them down.
yeah.
Every environmentalist ever is probably like, you suck. But yeah, like round
They
two,
don't
like
have trees falling on their house.
yeah, yeah. But like round two for, I think it was like Hurricane Fiona, Hurricane Dorian, a couple trees fell on my house, like on the peak, like crash, beams cracked, everything, literal hole in the roof. And then this fall, or last fall, I should say, same thing, another hurricane, more trees falling on the house. And I was just like, all right, this again, like, come on, like, let's go. Like, here's who I call. This is what I do. And even now, like, just learning from that and having a lot of issues. I know there's a huge, like, labor shortage with like, the hurricane and stuff like that, just trying to find people. But now I kind of have, like, 3 people lined up in that town. I'm like, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to call this guy. And it doesn't work out, I'm going to call this guy. If it really doesn't work out, I'm going to call this guy. So just like you just learn from that, and you just like you build up your network. Like I said, you just get stronger, or all the trees fall down. I don't know.
Yeah. One of the two.
That's what you hope for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. Any other, I guess, like words of like wisdom or Yeah. Any motivational thoughts for when people are kind of hitting that like roadblock and like what to do next?
Yeah, so I'll start with something not so motivational, especially if you're new, like eyeing to get into the real estate side of things. Like this stuff is challenging. It's like,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's not like, oh yeah, just go find a property, buy it, you're cash flowing, life's good. Even after, you get into some of these bigger multifamilies, it's like we have property managers that in theory should just be taking care of everything. But it's like, no, no, no. It's like, we buy a building and now we have to watch them. Like that. We'll have a whole other podcast on just property management, that type of stuff. But it's like, it's not just buy it and life's good, away you go. It's like, it's constant. Like, it's like, yes, and the other thing is, for some of these larger multifamily things, it's like, we won't really realize the true power of the gains for years and years and years down the line. So it's like when we do realize them, that's going to be great. But it's like, you are signing up for a lot of work and a lot of problem solving, a lot of being told no, a lot of all this good stuff. So it's like, you really have to be dialed in and focused and know what you're signing up for. So that's the maybe not motivational, but that's the actual what you're going to get when you do this. The motivational side of it would be, when you get to realize these gains, like, you're going to look back and think, every difficult time that you had, every problem that you faced, all this stuff, it's going to be totally worth it. Like, you're going to be setting yourself up for a life of success. You're going to be setting yourself up for, your kids to be successful or whatever it might be, early retirement, all these other great things. So it's like, in my mind, the juice is certainly worth the squeeze. But it's not easy.
Yeah, I think we're also in just like difficult times right now. Like, I think some people are trying to say it's like somewhat coming up to that like 2008 crash. It's just like, it's a weird world with like post-COVID, the Russia-Ukraine stuff. Like, is that like the labor shortages, just like the interest rates, like the inflation. It's a weird time that we're in, and it makes it very difficult, especially here in Nova Scotia, given all the circumstances and everything with like the tenancy laws, and like those are changing. But if you can make it through this difficult time, then, you can make it through anything. Like, we kind of have the cards like stacked against us in one sense. And like you said, like, there are some opportunities out there. But it does come through when you finish that property, get that first rent check, or like finish it off and refi it or sell it or flip it. And then you do get that payoff, and it's like, okay, like, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it, and, I made like half a year's salary on this like one project or whatever it is. Or it is that like, hey, like, I bought that building in the States, and like, that's my future children's like college fund or whatever it is. I think you have to be a special type of person to get into this world. But if you're willing to work hard and push through those no's, then you can really truly like set yourself up for success and in long-term wealth and security.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Alrighty. Well, I think that probably rounds it off nicely there. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Like I said, if you guys have any feedback, we would love to hear from you. Any comments, any suggestions for future episodes, we would love to hear it. My name is Janelle, and this is my co-host Ian. Our other co-host Manny is away, luckily in Mexico right now. But hit the like button, subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, leave us a comment, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you're listening from. And that's it for this week. Thank you so much.